Right, lots to talk about as Arsenal end their US tour with a win, a draw, and a defeat. We can call that second draw a win on penalties, can't we? Plenty more to discuss on the transfer front. We really want to review the tour. We really want to talk about where Arsenal are as they approach, well, essentially what is 3 games in a row at the Emirates, 2 of them friendlies, but of course, all eyes on the start of the season against Wolves. That is coming up very, very soon. We know the likes of Raya, Rice, Saka all returned to training with Arsenal as well this weekend. So Arsenal squad is starting to look in a much better place in terms of getting players available again. But what in terms of transfers? Some news came out across the weekend. And as I've been traveling a lot back from Philadelphia and the US, which was brilliant. And of course, we'll talk about the tour in this video. I'm just going to catch up on all the news, including Smith Rowe, Eddie Nketiah, Osimhen links that will not go away. And of course, we're going to review what happened out in the States. So welcome back, everyone. Been a little while since I've done this. I did do a live stream in Philadelphia. Glad I was able to bring that to you all and just sort of discuss some of the latest news, but I've not been able to keep up with the regular momentum that we've had on this channel for a long time now in terms of uploads and everything, which was slightly disappointing. It was annoying me that I couldn't get you guys all the content. I was planning on dropping a video on Friday, but we got majorly delayed in our return. I was meant to be home by about 10 a.m. on Friday. I actually didn't get back to about 3 p.m. By that point, there's just no time to do everything. So I thought, okay, let's do a live stream. Let's talk about everything that's going on. Of course, we are doing shorts to react to all the latest breaking news. We would normally have the Goonerverse podcast as well. That's returning with me and Sharoy. No guests, just the two of us have a one-on-one conversation on everything that's going on in the world of Arsenal. And that will come back on Tuesday with more content from tomorrow and through the week. That was a long, quick intro, wasn't it? Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Welcome back to the channel. Let's have a little look. I know it's been a while, Tim. I'm trying to get your comment. Oh, there we go, Tim. I know it's been a while. Apologies. I'm so sorry. And I take all W's. There's finally some content. I know. I'm sorry. I feel bad. I tried to do what I could. I think we did get about 7 videos out there uploaded in the 2 weeks I was away. But glad I'm back. Thank you, Tim, by the way, for the support on the Arteta press conference. We'll tell you guys all about that if you want to know a little bit more about it. And Akshat, how do you know all this? We must have said it in the vlogs. But yes, I did. It was very cool. Met Gilberto Walcott. All those people you mentioned there. No, not Edu. I mean, Edu I met in LA a year ago. But yeah. Will, good afternoon. Hope you're well. Jerry, you're not wrong. That's all I'll say. Philly or LA, Sahid, very different, both of them. I really enjoyed both. I'd holiday in LA, but I'd live in Philadelphia. Is that fair? I loved both brilliant. DJ Ash B says, big up, James. Loved all the FTV content and banter on tour along with your video updates. Thank you. Honestly, they are great to be with. Robbie, Cecil, Curtis, and I've not mentioned all of them, but they are all brilliant and we have a lot of fun. Always got to show love to Max. He's back. Yes, which means I'm going to be really annoying with content that we need to do tomorrow, Max. But mate, I'm looking forward to getting back into it. Everyone show some love for Max. He makes this channel run, honestly. Okay, guys, let's go into everything. I'm just going to hide the comments for a sec because it distracts me. I can't help but look over when I'm trying to talk about everything. All the contents of the show. And look, let's start with the tour. I think there's one place to start, which is to review the tour in general from an Arsenal player perspective and review how I felt the players did. Now, and Max is going to like this, we've leveled up a little bit. Well, I've tried to anyway, because you should be able to still hear my voice. Let me know in the comments if you can. Here I've got my ratings for all the Arsenal players that played on tour. Now, I'm just going to hide it for a sec before you've had a chance to read it all. We're going to go through those in just a sec. I'm going to go player by player, give a little word on each, whilst talking a little bit about the team performances within that as well. But really want to discuss how I felt the players did in general. Of course, we couldn't bring our full squad, which meant that there was a lot of pressure on some players to perform and show us something in pre-season, but also on some of the youngsters to potentially, make a claim for a spot in that squad and maybe make themselves more reliable than we first thought going into next season. We're going to talk about that and then some of the players in general. But let's start with some of the performances in general. But let's start with my review here of the players, and you can hear me all right. Yeah, there we go. You can all hear me. Fantastic. So what I've got here, like I said, is the ratings out of 10. Now, I just want to say a 5 means they did fine. nothing more, nothing less. It's just they were okay. Nothing over the top. A 6 is like they performed well. Now, I've actually got this on a. Hopefully, I've got these on a loop, so it shouldn't. Oh, there we go. Right, that should loop. So that shouldn't fall off screen as I'm talking about them. Now, Hines, the only goalkeeper we saw, he gets a 7. I think he could have done better with the goal that Man United scored against us. Hoyland, I know Heaven struggled in that moment too, but Hines otherwise did pretty well. So I'm largely happy with his tour. And actually, a lot of people were then saying to me, well, could he be the number 2? Do we not have to worry about signing another one? I'm not sure he looked that good. But certainly, whether we keep him as a number 3 or we let him go out on loan again, more than happy to. And there we go. It's looped. Brilliant. More than happy to, either send him on loan or keep him as a number 3. I'm not particularly stressed about what position he plays in Arsenal's squad over the coming years. Ben White, I gave a 6. I don't think he was. I don't think he was brilliant, but I don't think he was bad. I think he was better than fine. I think he showed some of his qualities. I don't think I don't think he was sort of the Ben White that we know yet, but I think that's fine. I don't think he's still getting up to speed, and we know what Ben White can do throughout the season. So I'm not particularly worried, nor was I looking for him to show us anything particularly. There were certain players that on this tour I was looking and thinking, what can you do to sort of impress Arsenal fans and show us something different and show us maybe we can depend on you a little bit more in this upcoming season. Ben White has shown us 3 seasons in a row that we can depend on him. So pre-season wasn't particularly important one for White. I was more worried about fitness in the legs for a player like him. And that's true of others as well. Josh Nichols, the youngster who I didn't even know about him before this tour, he was superb. I thought he was really good. I thought actually Semenyo worked him really hard in the Bournemouth game. I don't think he found that task particularly easy, but in the next few games, he made an appearance against Liverpool, not very long, but it's really that game against Man United where I think he played about 20, 30 minutes and he looked really, really good, both in possession, bravery on the ball, but also out of possession. I thought he did very well as well, defending one-on-one with Sancho. Really impressed by him. Rekic, I think, only played, didn't he, second half maybe against Bournemouth, or maybe a little bit less than that. Yeah, he struggled, if I'm honest. He struggled, but we didn't really see him much more other than that. Jurrien Timber, I thought was brilliant. I gave him an 8, purely for the fact that I felt a centre-back where he sort of largely played fullback, and I did ask Arteta about that. He said that basically, I think his main point was that from a fitness perspective, it's better to use Timber at centre-back where the demands are slightly less than if you were playing at right-back, and we know how often the fullback bombs forward, although Ben White didn't do as much of that on this tour. But I felt that Jurrien Timber, he was really commanding at the back. He was really good in possession. He was really good in the duel. He was really aggressive. He's not the tallest, but he really did dominate physically anyway. And then he had moments where he drove into midfield and made things happen too. So I really liked Timber from centre-back, and I wonder whether Arteta might be tempted to use him in that position, maybe certainly in other cups, or if Saliba ever needs a rest. So Timber certainly one of the standout players from the tour, as he was last summer as well. Moving across, Gabriel's a standard 7. I think he did really well against Man United when he came on, and the Liverpool game, he was fine. I don't think he was brilliant. I don't think he was at fault for any of the goals. Although you could say maybe in the build-up to Salah's goal that Liverpool scored to go 1-0 up, I think maybe could have done a little bit better there. That might be the only thing. I sort of haven't really had much of a chance to watch it back properly. But I don't think it was all Zinchenko's fault. A lot of people put it on Zinchenko, and I felt that was a bit harsh. So Gabriel gets a 7 for me. For his general performance on tour, as does Aiden Heaven, who I thought had a really impressive tour, actually. I thought he did well against Bournemouth, albeit Solanke, sent him one way for a strike that was saved by a Hind. But, you're going to get done by a Premier League striker who's in terrific form in the last 12 months. Obviously done by Hoyland a little bit for that goal against Man United. So you're probably saying a 7's a little bit too kind. But I think the way he responded and how he did in possession after that was really, really impressive. And you've got to remember that the context to this is he's a 17-year-old central midfielder / defensive midfielder. So playing as a left-footed centre-back in this system where you're, left-back, whether it be Zinchenko or Lewis Skelly's inverting a lot as well, is actually quite a big task for him. And I thought he did a really, really good job. So well done, Aiden Heaven. I really think the youngsters were the story of this tour. I think I said that in my match reports that are obviously coming to the channel now, so I will look out for those. I felt that the youngsters did a really, really good job throughout this tour of actually just making Arsenal still look like they were adopting the tactical plans Arteta would want, that the intensity was there. And that's not easy to get yourself to those level Arteta demands as a first teamer, and I felt Aidan Heaven, along with others, did really well. We'll talk about some of those others as well. Let's fly through some others a little bit more quickly. Kivior, standard 7, did fine. No, did better than fine. He was actually pretty good. Zinchenko, I gave a 5, not because I felt, it wasn't because he got ripped by Salah or anything. I think that would happen to most. It's actually more that I felt Zinchenko wasn't quite at his best on the ball. I think there were some moments where you ping the ball out to Reece Nelson against Man United and you're going, wow, there's that technical quality. But actually, I felt he was struggling a little bit in terms of giving the ball away in sloppy areas at times, not his usual technical security that we've seen from him. And then if I move on to Lewis Skelly to kind of make the point of Zinchenko a little bit more, I felt that Lewis Skelly actually, when he came on against, who was it, Liverpool, for that last kind of 10, 15 minutes or so, maybe he played a little bit longer than that, to be fair. And then the Bournemouth game, I felt Lewis Skelly was doing more Zinchenko-esque things in Zinchenko, whether it be the balls through the lines, the passes to find our tens, and actually getting us progressing through midfield really well. I thought Lewis Skelly did a really good job in that sense. Again, he's a central midfielder, left-footed, moved out to left back, asked to invert, and I think he did a brilliant job against Bournemouth and against Liverpool. I was really impressed. Man United didn't play quite as much, so I didn't quite see the same levels, but against Liverpool, that cameo was really, really impressive. I really like what we saw from Lewis Skelly. Certainly one of the standout players of the tour, along with Timber and some of the other youngsters. Let's get some of your thoughts before I move into the rest of the the rest of the ratings. And yeah, I can see what some people are saying. William says Zinchenko marked too high. Let's be honest here. If he's playing left back, never a 5. William, he wasn't that bad. Like he really wasn't. Some people are saying like worst player on the tour. I think that's quite harsh. I mean, like even if he was, I don't think anyone was terrible, and I actually think there were others who were worse. But like no one was terrible on the tour for me. Some certainly didn't hit the heights as you saw from some of my ratings. But I felt he was. He did some nice things. He did some poor things. That's sort of how I see it. In possession, he wasn't as technically secure as I'd have liked him to have been. We've got a lot of love for Max in the comments here, I can see. And everyone go and subscribe to Forward on Football. He's doing some fantastic stuff as well on his YouTube channel. Denrelay says, "Hey James, can't wait for the season start. I love tactical insight. Big thank you. Tell Lee judges that." And Max knows he's got some work coming for him. Bless his heart. We'll chat tomorrow, Max. Anyway, I'm taking age. I didn't think this sort of player ratings thing would take as long as it has. So let's just fly through the rest pretty quickly. Ødegaard was my player of the tour. I thought he was sensational from the Bournemouth game, coming on for that 45-minute cameo, blowing everyone away. I felt that in a game when Nwaneri was really impressing, Ødegaard came out and just reminded everyone what the levels are. He was superb, and he was in the other games too. Kai Havertz, I give him a 7. I mean, decent run against Man United, but against Liverpool, I thought he did really well from central midfield, so fair play to him. And he only played in central midfield. I'd love to have judged him with the other strikers, but we didn't see that this tour. Goa, I just give a 5. He came on, did fine, but we barely saw him against Bournemouth. Partey, it's a 5. Now, I mean, you're all getting on to Zinchenko, but I think Partey struggled throughout the tour, really. I don't think he got to the levels that we know he can. And I just felt he was a touch sloppy. Look, he did some nice things. I watched a comp of him against Liverpool and actually did a lot more good things than I realised in that game. But he's still taking some time to get to the Partey that we know in terms of the levels he hit 2 years ago. So let's wait and see if he can get up to speed. But luckily, it looks like Arsenal are building a midfield setup where we don't really have to rely on Partey. If he could play a part and get to that level occasionally and be a very kind of good squad player, then I think that's probably the role that's going to suit Partey best. Jorginho 7, I thought he was very good against Man United, had a much better cameo against Bournemouth than I realised at first. And then against Liverpool, came on and did fine. But yeah, I'll give him a 7, Jorginho. Salah-Eddin, certainly one of the surprises, probably more so than Nwaneri. And I say that because Salah-Eddin, he was a player who, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but I mean, I think we first heard of him like 3-4 years ago, maybe not quite that long, but certainly 2, 3, 4 years ago. Yeah, around then. He had a really bad knee injury, I think, or he had a bad injury of some sort. He ended up, I think, missing like a lot of football, a good year of football or so. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong retelling this, but this is from what I remember reading about him. He went on loan to Hull, And look, he's 20, turns 21 this month. So I thought, well, he's probably not going to make it because we've seen so little of him up to this point. But to be fair, brilliant on tour. Really, really good. Showed really good technical quality, really strong. He's not 6'3" monster, but he's, uses his body well. Looks pretty creative, looks quite dynamic in midfield. He's actually the profile in midfielder I would want in that left 8 space to complement a Rice and an Erdegaard. The question is whether there's the quality and the level there. Now, we didn't play against Liverpool at all, which was interesting. I don't know what that means. I mean, we'll maybe get a better idea for how in Arteta's plans he is in these coming games against Leverkusen and against Lyon. That's the other one. But I thought he was impressive, so well done to him, as was Ethan Nwaneri, who gets an 8 as well. I thought he was really, really terrific, especially in that Bournemouth and Man United game. So interesting that Arteta opted to use him as the left 8 as opposed to Vieira as the left 8. In fact, when they were both on the pitch together, it was Vieira who was out on the right, with Nwaneri getting a central midfield spot. He is a little bit more built. Nwaneri does fill the shirt out a little bit more. And he puts his body about really, really well in central midfield. I really like what he did, and the technical quality is certainly there. He's 17 years old, so a lot of people are feeling, well, is he ready? Is he definitely, ready at 17 to contribute at such a young age? I saw enough on tour to suggest that he can play a part this season. Should we depend on him? No. Should he be a go-to squad player next in line, someone who's getting regular minutes off the bench? No, probably not. But is he someone who could start the odd Carabao FA Cup game? Is he someone who, in the absence of a Saka or a Merino, if we sign him, they can step into that left 8 if we don't want to ruin the makeup of the team too much? Then yeah, probably. I think he's someone who can play more football next season than we perhaps all first realised. We probably looked ahead another year or two before we were thinking of him playing some first team football, but I think he's ready to contribute now, and he was certainly one of the stars of the tour as well. Nelson, I thought did really well on tour. That's why I gave him an 8. I thought he did great, actually. It's a shame because I was watching him thinking, this is awful. But I was watching him thinking, this is great. Push that price up. Get a bidding war going. I'm not seeing enough to a point where I'm like, well, we've got to keep him. And I think even he'd have to perform at some stupidly good level for me to feel that, because Arteta ultimately hasn't trusted him enough. So that's why I think Nelson played well, but I can't get myself too excited about it. Vieira, it's a 5. I want to keep it short. He was playing out on the right, and I don't think that's his best position, nor the area where you're going to get the best out of his qualities. So I was actually a little disappointed that's the only part of the pitch we ever saw him in. But maybe that tells us a little bit more about what Arteta thinks of him in the pecking order for central midfield, even along with a Nwaneri, Salah, and some others. So I don't know. Out on the right, where we don't have depth for Saka, maybe he's just trying to get him ready to contribute there a little bit more, but I didn't really love it. Sago Jr., only got some minutes against Bournemouth. He did okay. Jesus, it was a 7. I think there were moments of brilliance, but moments of frustration. But ultimately, I think he had a good tour, and I think he was pretty good. Eddie Nketiah with a 4. I think he really struggled, if I'm honest. I don't think he ever looked comfortable. Some loose touches against Bournemouth, some good moments where he could have got a shot away. It didn't happen. He didn't get a goal on this tour. And it just wasn't his best sort of 3 games at all for Eddie Nketiah. We'll talk about him and the latest transfer stuff in a minute. Leandro Trossard, 6. I actually think he got better as the tour went on. I thought he struggled against Bournemouth, did pretty fine against Man United. I really liked his cameo against Liverpool. He was great. And Martinelli, I think we're all going to be talking about that 45 minutes against Man United where he terrorised them. Otherwise, against Liverpool, he was okay. I'd give him a 7. So those are my ratings for all the players on the tour. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Was he abysmal against Liverpool? I mean, I remember him taking on Tsimikas around the outside. He had a lot of ground to cover, took him around the outside, and then whipped it across the box. And had it not been for Szoboszlai, I think Jesus is putting that in the back of the net. Was that not the chance I think he created? And, he had a lot of work to do against a good left back. I think he did fine, Nelson. I mean, I think, if I were to give him a 6 for his performance against Liverpool, I think he was 8 or 9 for the performances in the other games. So got the assist for Vieira. Looked really dangerous against Man United. So I was happy with Nelson personally. A bit lightweight for me, but Jorginho, Salah, Ethan would be a nice midfield in some cup games. I'm thinking more Partey, Vieira, Nwaneri, or Salah, Vieira, Partey. I'm thinking that kind of thing. Jorginho in and out every now and again, but let's see. What else have we got? Salah was really good. Yeah, very composed. I agree. I think he did well. Keep Salah in the squad. Interesting what a lot of people are saying about him. He did do very well. Aaron says 3 young players you think deserve first team minutes. Well, I think Salah, Nwaneri, and Lewis Skelly, I would definitely want to see more of in these next 2 preseason games. I'd be very interested to see how how they do in these next 2 games if they get any football. What else have we got? I don't see if people's not convinced by what I was saying about Nelson. I think he did well. Just to round off, let's get to the half-hour mark. Just talking on tour a little bit more. Just generally in terms of the performances. In terms of the tactical stuff, I want to watch the Leverkusen and Lyon games before I do a video. I will do something on this channel looking at what Arteta's tactics could be like for the 24-25 season. Are these friendlies giving us any hints? Early on, I think some of the things we're seeing are splitting of the centre-backs, but at the same time, we're seeing White tuck in at times. So we are sometimes having a back 3 build-up. Sometimes it's the goalkeeper who's a part of that build-up with the centre-back splitting. White wasn't bombing up and down the pitch very much, which was interesting. I felt he was holding a pretty high, slightly more tucked in position, but he wasn't really bombing up and down the pitch from what I saw. At times, of course, he pulls out that moment, but I didn't see it that often. Actually, what was interesting was the use of the left back playing, yes, at times inverted, Lewis Skelly, Zinchenko, but at times they're also hugging the touchline. If I show you the Man United average positions, which I've got here. So what I've got on the left here is Zinchenko's position, number 35. So the graphic on the left is our average position in the friendly against Man United at SoFi compared to the average positions against Man United when we beat them 3-1 at the Emirates last season. Now, the reason I've used that game is because Zinchenko started at left back in both. And what's interesting to me here is that Ben White is a little bit deeper. He's not so high up the pitch as we saw against Man United. We've seen so often in the last couple of seasons. But interesting is Zinchenko's position as the widest player in the game against SoFi on that left-hand side instead of it being Trossard. Now, Trossard and Nelson were both a lot closer to Jesus. So what does that tell us? I mean, does it tell us that Arteta is moving towards getting forwards a little bit closer to goal, a little bit closer to our number 9? Whereas against Man United almost a year ago, Martinelli was really high, really wide, almost had a job to do to stretch the pitch. When you look at the goal we scored against them, Zinchenko's on the touchline. Trossard's actually dropped a little bit deeper to get involved in build-up. And it's Nwaneri who's run beyond slightly in a slightly forward/underlap position, who has picked up the ball and then rolled it across to Jesus. Now, it's one game. Like I said, I want to watch back all the other games and get a better idea for what's going on tactically, what Arteta might be building for next season. But that's just one of the few things I noticed was that Zinchenko, even when he was playing, yes, inverted a little bit against Man United for sure, but a lot of touchline stuff, which we saw last season, didn't we? We saw a lot of, our fullbacks actually hugging the touchline and the box midfield being created by Havertz, Ødegaard, and then the 2 central midfielders and the 2 double pivot. Will we do something like that again? But this one was a lot more like, there's a lot more kind of fullbacks, or certainly one fullback wide, and then Ødegaard involved in build up along with Nwaneri, along with a number 6, say Jorginho in that Man United game, and then the inverted or inside forwards a lot more tucked in. It was kind of more like a Liverpool shape under Jurgen Klopp. So I just found that interesting. Have a little look at that from an Arsenal perspective. Tactically, like I said, there's more I kind of want to talk about. In terms of the performances, I mean, you'll have seen my match reports. Bournemouth, I was actually really encouraged by the intensity the boys played with. I felt the team looked pretty sharp actually on the ball. Some of the combinations and passing was good. I think the fitness was good. I think that was true of the team throughout all 3 games. I think we looked the most cohesive unit in the second half against Man United. I think that's when we looked really good, sort of off the ball and on it. I think against Liverpool, we arguably had some of our best pressing and had some of our best kind of most exciting moments when you look at that ball in behind for Martinelli, when you look at some of the football we played in that game, but at the same time, we were a bit more wasteful, and at the back, we didn't look quite secure. Against Bournemouth, I think the fact that they basically went with a full 11, what could easily be an 11 they go in the Premier League, and our youngsters really stood up to it, with Heaven doing well, Salah Dean, Nwaneri, all looking really good in those games. In that game, I was kind of really encouraged that we sort of looked that competitive for our first game back with all those youngsters against a Bournemouth side that, like I said, With pretty full strength. So I took encouragement from all 3 games. But if I'm to just look at the negatives for a sec, there's a lot of pressure, I think, on these Emirates games, these friendlies, for Arsenal to look like they are getting ready for the start of the season because, we're still 2 weeks away. We've got Leverkusen and Lyon, but then there's that week break before we play Wolves at home. Players are returning. Signings, we have been slow on that front, let's be honest. I know other clubs have been, but that doesn't mean we haven't. Things have been a touch slow. Calafiori is yet to play any football in an Arsenal shirt. Merino, we're waiting to see what happens there. And of course, we'll talk about that on this video, on this stream even. But I just feel like with Villa, Man City, Tottenham being 3 of our first 5 games and our first 3 away games, we need to see Arsenal pick up that momentum in front of goal. We need to see Arsenal show that efficiency. Arteta has spoken about us not being as efficient in front of goal as we wanted to be last season, and we haven't done anything in the window to address that. So we need to see at least if the momentum's getting there from the team's perspective, because we scored 4 goals on tour. Like, it wasn't that many across 3 games. So that is one concern I have. We're still looking like we have some of the old issues in front of goal. Back to your comments very quickly. Saladin played for the under-21s yesterday, says Benny. Okay, that's good to know. I didn't know that. Thank you for letting me know. And I don't do this a lot, but Max is absolutely right. Everyone, if you are enjoying the stream, please hit the like. We're going to be doing our longest stream ever. It's not the longest stream you've ever seen on YouTube. It's only hitting an hour, but we normally hit the 30-minute mark. So getting to an hour is a bit of a first for this channel, but lots we wanted to cover and lots that I've missed over the last few days that I really want to make sure we all get in this stream. So if you are enjoying it, please hit the like button. And of course, let me know any thoughts, any comments on things that, you want to see from this channel, anything I might be missing, anything you think would be good. I'm always open to ideas. Zahid says, did you notice rotation from our front line? Because I didn't see enough of it. No, I agree. We didn't see enough of that, if I'm really honest. So, that's kind of what I mean. Like, there's still things I really wanted to see from Arsenal that we're not quite seeing at the moment. All right, then I'm going to wrap up the tour convo there. I could bore you about, some of the behind the scenes access and all that. I think AFTV captured it brilliantly. I'd advise you to go see all that. For what it's worth, the people I did meet, whether it be Richard Garlick, Josh Kroenke, I did meet as well. Who else did I meet? Lots of sort of Arsenal staff, but in terms of players, Zinchenko, very cool. Erdegaard, White, Timber, Nwaneri, all great. Sort of shook hands and met some of them. They were cool. Didn't get a chance to really speak in great detail. Well, didn't speak at all really to the players. They just said hi. I'm very polite. Spoke a little bit to Richard Garlick and Josh Kroenke. They were great, and the ambition's absolutely there for Arsenal to do well. And that was all really cool. That was all really cool. And just look at what the club's been doing over the last few years. Like, they've been competitive, and I've got no doubt that Arsenal kind of keep going and keep pushing because the demands are coming from everyone there. I mean, Mikel Arteta sets those standards, and I think everyone involved in the club has that standard to win. I think you saw that when Arsenal, lost on that final day, really believed that they were going to do it, win the Premier League on that final day, that something was going to happen with West Ham. And they, the first thing they said in losing the title was, we're gutted, we're disappointed, we're heartbroken, we want to go again, and we will get it. We will get there in the end. And that's where their mind's at. It's not, well done, you competed, fair play. Add a £40 million left back to the Premier League's, best defense of the last season. If you don't have sort of ambitions to keep improving, but we need to go and, get that midfielder in, and we need to go and get that forward as well. How much does Cecil and Curtis pay for them Jude picks? Look, I'm actually not going to say, because it's not my business to say. But at the same time, if you're thinking crazy numbers, it wasn't crazy numbers. It was just more than I was willing to pay. I'll let them, they can tell you. Go check out, you all know Curtis's channel, Curtis Shaw TV. Go ask him. Serge asks, James, thoughts on Saka, Rice, Saliba, and Raya coming back, but not Ramsdale yet? Look, they'll all have their reasons. I'm not going to comment as long as they're ready. As long as they're ready for the opening day. That's what I think. I think that's it. We might go through some other comments as well, but let's go through the latest transfer stuff. We've hit the 30-minute mark, So I think it's only right that we talk about this. Emil Smith-Rowe, from Hale End to the first team, 55, 32, and then our number 10. Once a gunner, always a gunner. Thanks for the memories, Emil. That was the message from Arsenal as we announced on Friday that Emil Smith-Rowe had gone to Fulham. A lot of Arsenal fans very heartbroken about this. And there he is in a Fulham shirt. I mean, the only thing that looks normal about it is that it's at least Adidas. Look, I wish him all the best. I genuinely do. I think anyone who kind of says football is only about winning and it's only about, essentially, have Arsenal got better for this deal? Yes. Therefore, I don't care that he's gone. Look, we form attachments to these players, especially when we have been on an upward trajectory, especially when we've been playing better football, and especially when Smith-Rowe has been a part of the turnaround under Arteta that's got us to this point. However, I can't say I'm heartbroken and depressed about it. Arsenal fans, have sort of really said that they're really upset about, Smith-Rowe leaving. Not that that's necessarily saying they disagree with the deal. Just that, it's like a really hard one to stomach. And I'm going to be really honest. I've seen Arsenal fall short twice in the Premier League title race. Really selfishly, my brain is just like, do we got to do to win it now? 34 million for Smith-Rowe, I think, is a really good fee. Is Fulham the right move for him? I'll be honest, I'm skeptical. I'm going to be really honest about that. I'm actually skeptical about whether this is the right move for Emil Smith-Rowe. Fulham, I think, will remain in the Premier League and are a good team. I really like Marco Silva, but they've just lost Palhinha and Decordova-Reid, and I think maybe one or two others. And I think they're going to spend wisely. Like they've added Sessegnon. He's obviously returned. Smith-Rowe's come in. Will they add McTominay? I think they're trying to sign him. I mean, I think they will be fine, but I don't think it's a guarantee that that's kind of the best place for Smith-Rowe to develop. But I really hope it does go well for him. I mean, growing up, like when I couldn't get Arsenal season tickets, even though I was an Arsenal fan, I went to Fulham a lot because they were my local club. So I like Fulham. I mean, if I had to have a second team, and I don't really care. If I had to, I guess I'd say Fulham. I like Brentford too. These are kind of the clubs local to me in London. So I'd like Fulham and Smith-Rowe to do quite well, but I'm just not 100% sold that it's definitely the right move for him. So yeah, let's see how he does. I do wish him all the best. But ultimately, I think we've got a good fee. And if we had Merino, then I think we've upgraded our midfield in terms of balance and options and experience. Personally, I think we will be better off in a title race with Merino than Smith-Rowe. That's just my honest opinion. How will that look in 3 years' time? Maybe not as good, but we want to win now. Let's move on to some other transfer stuff. What we got? So on the Merino front, Romano came in with this, that Arsenal are closing in on Mikel Merino deal as verbal agreement is now getting closer. Agreement is in place on personal terms. Merino wants to move. Verbal discussions with Sociedad for a package in excess of 30 million euros. Talks on to get the deal done. And he cites Matteo Moretto. He's been really good on Arsenal stuff this summer, as is Fabrizio Romano. Now, this emerged on Thursday, I think, or maybe even Wednesday. In fact, I think it was Wednesday. So this was quite a bit earlier in the week, and it's been a lot quieter since then. My general thoughts on it are that I think this is a deal that is moving along. I think this is a player that Arsenal, in fact, actually, let me just check that again. So what did I show you there? So I showed you that, right. So let me just show you this as well. So this is from Hand of Ozil, who's been really spot on with everything this summer. He says that Arsenal are now finalising the deal for Mikel Merino. All parties are working towards an agreement to bring this to a swift conclusion. The player had agreed terms with Barcelona, but wants the Arteta or Arsenal project. Now, if I just take you back to that Romano tweet, he actually has reposted this since. Now, when he retweets, that's either him promoting his information, but he's only promoting it because he's sort of still very confident about it. So it looks like this is moving along. I will say that this came in from Kaya Kainak from Football London. It says Mikel Merino interest is there, but not necessarily as simple as it seems. Now, look, I'm always going to report everything that I see, people. I'm not just going to give you the good news. If people are saying that this isn't quite as far advanced as others are saying, then I'll tell you about that too. And Kaya is very well researched, very well informed. I've got to be honest, he got a bit of heat for this in the comments on Twitter. But look, I mean, two things can be true, right? Just because a verbal agreement might be in place or might be close, I think there's, that might just be the fee. Like that might just be what you're kind of willing to meet at. And then there's establishing everything else, in terms of the structure front. And, maybe things are more advanced on the player side than necessarily the club side. And the one thing I will say about Arsenal transfers is we can be, and I've said this before and people didn't really like it, but we can be slight ditherers. Now, I've never bought or sold players. I keep saying this. So for all I know, Arsenal are working extremely hard and extremely quickly, and it's just the natural pace of transfers. But with the Calafiori stuff, it felt it dragged a little bit, and it felt like it took a little bit of time. Now, ultimately, we've got the player in, we've got a deal we're happy with. But it just wouldn't surprise me if, the next thing we hear about Merino is David Ornstein going, Arsenal interest in Merino is real. They've had a £20 million bid rejected. It wouldn't surprise me. And we've had this before with other players. Excuse me, I'm hiccuping. There we go. We've had this with other players where it's felt like, remember going into the summer for the Rice deal, albeit that was a £100 million signing. But we went into it going, right, everyone's kind of saying that this is going to happen. Let's wait and see. And it took ages. You realize that we hadn't even got to the club-to-club part of the deal yet. So, yeah, I think there's a chance that two things could be true, that the player side is quite advanced, that the player wants to come, that we're pretty sure, we can give him the contract he wants. And he said, yes, let's make it happen. But that actually Arsenal are still in very kind of early discussions with Sociedad. And maybe those are just discussions and no actual bids have come in. So I don't know. It's kind of all up in the air. Basically, if you're expecting it to be announced in the next 7 days, I wouldn't. I think there might be a deal agreed in the next 7 days, but I'm not sure I'd expect it to be like, yeah, he's holding the shirt and that he's going to be unveiled against Lyon. If he is, though, that'd be amazing. And let me say, quite a few of my transfer predictions, I think have been pretty good. Like the Sesko stuff, I was predicting that he was going to sign a new deal at Leipzig. And then if you've watched the latest AFTV vlog with the media day, Calafiori's first day or whatever, I honestly predicted, I had no information on it, and I predicted that Calafiori was going to get announced that day, which was the Monday that we were in Philadelphia, and that he was going to sort of meet the media and potentially be at that open training session on the Monday as well. So a couple of things I got right there, including actually, when I started believing that there was something in this Calafiori stuff. So I'm just putting that out there, people. Maybe I'm rating myself too much. Feel free to remind me of everything I've got wrong in the comments. Why not? But yeah, that's sort of all the stuff on the Merino front. For what it's worth, I think we are going to get him. I just think it's going to take a little bit longer than perhaps we all think. I think we all sort of think like it's imminent that this deal kind of then picks up pace and he'll fly to London soon or whatever. I'm just not sure we're quite there yet. But the players should be back from holiday, so I imagine he's looking to get this deal moving as well, Mikel Merino. So let's see. Osimhen news reliable. We are going to touch on Osimhen. I know you're all 38 minutes into the stream going, bro, you put Osimhen on the thumbnail. We are going to talk about him. We are going to talk about him. Yes, I did get this wrong. Although, hold on, I wasn't miles off. I said he'd be in time for us to fly on tour. But he did join the tour. So I wasn't massively off. You said we wouldn't get Calafiori, didn't you? I think at the first rumours, but I changed my opinion pretty quickly on that. Once I saw all the Italian media coming out a lot. But I did hold doubts. Sorry, people are asking about Osimhen. Get Vic to stop playing. We are going to talk about Osimhen because I've tried to bring together all the news that we've got on Osimhen, and we'll leave that as the final part. But I just want to kind of go in order of all the relevant news. Now, forgive me for 1 second while I just refer to my notes. Right. The next thing to talk about is Nketiah. I know, people, I know. So we talked about that. So where's point 9? Here we go. Right. So Romano came in with this. He understands that Arsenal want at least 35 million euros plus sell-on clause for Eddie Nketiah. That's why Arsenal decided to reject 27 million euro proposal from Lyon. As he revealed on Friday, no agreement between clubs so far. Marseille can now start to look at new options. Now, why did this hurt? Because not long after, this came in. His exclusive that Moukoko, the Dortmund winger/striker, came with a lot of excitement, has decided to join Marseille. Despite bids from more than 5 clubs around Europe, Moukoko wants Marseille. Personal terms agreed. Negotiations underway between Marseille and Dortmund on a loan deal with buy option clause. Now, being another forward, does that mean that the Eddie Nketiah deal is unlikely to happen? Which one did I just show you there? Did I show you this? Yeah. So That's the feeling amongst the Arsenal fan base. Well, we're probably not going to sell Eddie now to Marseille because they're going to get Moukoko and they've kind of got everyone they want. Let's straight to my mic. There we go. I don't know. I don't know if this Moukoko deal affects the Nketiah deal. For what it's worth, I would have been happy with Arsenal accepting €27 million bid. What's that, 23, 24 million pounds? I'd have been happy with that. But they're holding out for more. If you want me to kind of go crazy about us and not accepting that deal, I'll just say this. Like, I'm not going to go crazy about anything now. I want to see that we add that other forward. I want to see that we do go and address the forward line, but adding more quality with or without Reece Nelson and Eddie staying or going. I don't care what happens to their futures. I think we need to add that type of player anyway. And at the end of the window, I will judge the situation. If he's still here, Eddie Nketiah, and I do think his time is up at Arsenal, unfortunately, and he doesn't move on, then I'll reflect on that bid and go, come on, like we did too much here. We lost the player. We lost the deal. That would have been good. I think it combined 34 plus 23. So you're looking about, just shy of 60 million for Smith Rowe and Eddie. I think would have been good business. So let's see if he still moves on and we get a better fee than that. And then you say Arsenal played a blinder, but a lot of it depends on adding that other forward for me. What else is being said really quickly? Was there any more on that Eddie stuff? No. So let's get into the Osimhen stuff, right? This is the next point I've got. So let's rattle through all the Osimhen news, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts and opinion. We'll talk about the forward line in general, because it kind of, leans into everything on this Eddie Nketiah stuff, Reece Nelson stuff. So I just want to remind you, look at the date here, the 3rd of June. Di Matteo, who's very on it with the Calafiori stuff, people. He was good on the Calafiori stuff. I know the Arsenal fans lost faith in his reliability after the Declan Rice saga a year ago, but he was on it here. Or he was on it on the Calafiori stuff. So he says that Osimhen, we assume that he will leave. At the moment, there is only Arsenal in for him who are far from the clause. If he were to leave, and at the moment is not certain, the very first choice would be Lukaku. The alternative is Dovbyk from Girona. Now, that was 2 months ago. That was over 2 months ago. But I just want to remind you that, because that was one of the early insights we got into whether Arsenal were actually in for Osimhen this summer. We've since had this. Di Matteo had then said that, but you also need to pay attention in the Premier League for Osimhen. In fact, the market for attackers has not yet started. It is possible, therefore, that Arsenal will make an offer sooner or later. That was a lot more recent. I think that was back in July, maybe towards the end of July. And what he was saying was, essentially, that movement of strikers in the market that we were all expecting to happen hasn't really happened. Xerxes gone to Manchester United, but we haven't seen that Lukaku move from Chelsea. Obviously Napoli want him to. Osimhen is potentially available. Gyökeres is a player who's been mentioned as well. And there are others too. So he mentioned Osimhen back then. Now, if we go we go forward now to the latest information, it comes from this guy, Ilario, who says Arsenal are moving heavily in the last hours for Osimhen. The striker already has an agreement with PSG, which guarantees a significantly higher salary than that Arsenal are offering. But I think it was either his report or another report also said that Arsenal were willing to pay more to PSG. So PSG would probably rather do the deal with Arsenal not PSG. Napoli would probably rather do the deal with Arsenal from a financial perspective, but from the player perspective, it looks like PSG are willing to offer more than Arsenal are, which I'm skeptical about, because I think if Arsenal want the player, I don't see why they couldn't potentially match his salary if they're willing to go and get a player like Osimhen. They clearly really rate him. We know that we've paid some sort of, we've played some high wages recently, so it wouldn't surprise me massively if Arsenal could match what PSG are offering, unless they're offering something crazy like 350, 400 grand a week, which of course Arsenal probably wouldn't go to. Now, in terms of reliability, this is a guy, Ilario, from Radio. He's a editor, I guess, there, or he's on editorial stuff there. So I'm just showing you his profile, so maybe you get an idea for his reliability. I really should put how many followers he has in there, but there you go. If you want to go check out how reliable he is, you can go let me know. But I don't know, if I'm being completely honest, but may as well let you know where the information is coming from. Now, let's talk about the forward situation. So I was on Forever Arsenal. I think that came out 24 minutes ago, actually. And on Forever Arsenal, and I was talking about the transfer window. This is kind of where I was with it. And in this, we'll kind of talk about what's next for Arsenal as well. Very happy about that. Speak, James. Very happy about the Calafiori deal. Very happy. I think he's a really exciting left back / centre back who's a good age, and I think is going to give us the balance rather than just have a makeshift at left back. He's going to be the left back, hopefully, rotating with Timber, maybe Zinchenko at times, but these other players will get minutes across the back four too. The balance is great. Top. Happy with Calafiori. In midfield, the addition of there's a fly in here. Sorry about that. The addition of Merino, that's going to really annoy me. That's the thing with summer. And I didn't even do the thumbs up. The stream's having a calamitous end. That's the thing with summer, right? It's so hot and the windows are all open, but there we go. So anyway, back to it. Where were we? Midfield, the Merino signing, I think he's a very good player and I'm excited to add him to the team if we do get him. On the rumours earlier, like I said, I think he is going to end up at Arsenal, but I think this is probably going to take a little bit more time than we were sort of expecting at first. I think it's a good, sensible addition at around a 25 to 30 million pound price tag. And I think he's going to add something to this Arsenal team, more than anything, balance. Like purely being the right profile and competing at a competent level in European football is only a good thing for us. And I think is going to add something, to our team. If it defines Rice as a 6 and Erdegaard can have that creative freedom with Merino box crashing up and down the pitch, helping us in build up, I think it's a bit of a Swiss Army knife of a player who can do so much to aid us in so many different ways. So I'm excited about that potential player and that potential addition. But I will say that if it's only Calafiori and Merino and no one else, I think that's a really underwhelming window. Because I think the only way I'd have tolerated sounds a bit spoiled brat, doesn't it? But the only way I'd have kind of been happy with that being our window is if the midfielder we added, cool, you had Calafiori, but if the midfielder we added was like a world beater, a Frankie de Jong, I don't know, like even maybe a Bruno Guimaraes, but again, I have my doubts over him as a player. But you know what I mean? Like if we did something incredible, right, and added like Camavinga, or somehow we got Gavi out of Barcelona. Obviously, this isn't, but you get what I'm trying to say, right? If we did something really special in central midfield, I'd feel really disappointed we didn't add another forward, but I'd feel confident that we'd like significantly upgraded going into next season. And at this stage, I'm not quite there. Even if we had Merino, I think we are a better team, but I don't think it's significant upgrades. And I imagine City will get better and kick on as they do every year. They may not always be a better team, but they have different tactics and different way. And I won't be convinced that we didn't just sort of all, if City are there and we're here, I would have felt that we kind of all just did that rather than us like actually close that gap and maybe overtake them with our signings. So the forward thing is really important for me. And it was even if we did add that superstar central midfielder, I still would have wanted a forward, but I just would have stomached it a little bit better. For me, Arsenal have to add a forward. And I'm even saying that I don't mind if it's a right winger, a left winger. I don't even mind if they don't necessarily start in our best front three. But we have to add something that at least helps or does one of the following things. Adds serious pace to our front line, is backup for Saka that we're genuinely comfortable playing if Saka's not going to play, or competes with the Gabriel Martinelli or a Trossard or whatever, or is an out-and-out 9 to give us a different profile there too. I think we have to add a forward that does something in one of those areas, hopefully ticks more than one of those boxes, and just gets us exciting and makes teams feel like we've added a different dimension at the moment. Because Saka, for me, has played too much football. Martinelli is a year away from is a year off his best football. Trossard, I think, was so clutch at the end of the season, but as a touchline winger, still lacks quite a lot of stuff. In fact, I think he's better as a false 9. Kai Havertz and Jesus could be wasteful in front of goal, but both add something. So can we add a Pedro Neto? Can we add a Leroy Sané? Can we add a Nico Williams? Now, those are the three names being mentioned. Nico Williams feels the most unlikely. Sané, possible, unlikely. Pedro Neto, I would gamble. I saw Alex on the Different Knock. I mean, a great chat with Rohan, and he made a great point. He said, like, what, are we just not going to try and sign anybody because the perfect forward isn't there? And we're seeing a lot of that being said now. Well, if the right guy's not there, then don't do it and wait till next time. But at some point, you've got to roll the dice. At some point, you've got to roll the dice and go, all right, Pedro Neto has an iffy transfer, an iffy injury record, but let's just have a go. Because if he stays fit for even 6-7 months of the season, my word, is he going to add something to our front line on the left and on the right. And that adds an unpredictability to Arsenal. And look, it will be slightly underwhelming because I think we were hoping we'd get that big superstar difference maker like an Isak. But at least you've added something. At least I can look at our forward options and go, yeah, we've significantly improved in that area. Now, Osimhen or Gyökeres, neither are perfect. Osimhen's got some injury problems. His last season wasn't great. Gyökeres only has kind of one season of top level European football. But like, so what? Like, let's roll the dice and have a go, especially if you're saving money on that central midfield area. You're not getting a 50, 60 million pound midfield like João Neves. You're getting a Merino. Then let's gamble in that front line. Whether it's a striker or a winger, Arsenal have to add something. And I'll be really disappointed if they don't. And that is regardless of whether they move on Reiss Nelson, Eddie and Nketiah. For me, those players, even if they stay, we've got to add something. Because Reiss Nelson and Eddie were not trusted enough by Emil Smith Rowe. Emil Smith Rowe's gone, but Emil Smith Rowe's part of it. Let me get some water. Do you know what? It's hot. It's hot there. All right. I needed that bit of fuel. Back into it. Arteta didn't trust Eddie Nketiah and Reiss Nelson in those dying months. He didn't. And that's okay. Like, he went with the team of better players. That's fine. But I did feel that there were moments where Saka wasn't having a great game and we didn't really want to take him off because so if Reiss Nelson comes off and has his absolute best game and has a stormer, like what does Reiss Nelson at his best look like? It's probably still not as good as Bukayo Saka on a 6-7 out of 10 day. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Pedro Neto on his day, yeah, I could envisage a world in which we bring off Bukayo Saka because he's struggling, he's not having his best game, and Neto actually does something in that game that Saka wasn't. By the way, call notification. I'm just going to check it's not transfer news. It's not. Okay, good. So we've got to do something. I'll be so disappointed if we don't do something to the forward line. So in this whole what's next part of, this stream and discussing, here's where I think Arsenal are, and then I'll take your comments to round off the stream. Calafiori's in. A second choice goalkeeper will only come if Ramsdale goes. And I don't think he will go. A third choice goalkeeper will come if Hine goes. And I don't think he'll go. And the Dan Bentley stuff's really died off now. Merino, I think, will join, but I still think we're a good week or two away from that being official and announced, which is a shame because I'd love him to have played some Emirates Cup football, but I don't think that's going to be the case. But I do think he will join. I don't think it's a case of, another name will come out and suddenly the Merino thing will fall away. I think we're genuinely trying to get Merino, and I think we probably will. Reiss and Eddie, I think, will leave. Certainly one of them, I think, will. But I think Arsenal may have to accept a lower price later in the window. I think we might live to regret that £24 million offer from Marseille. I think we might find he goes for somewhere in the Premier League with 20 million. And Reiss Nelson, the same. I think he goes for 15 million. Now West Ham have signed Somerville. They're not going to be looking at Reiss Nelson. Leicester, I don't know what's going on there. We know they've had PSR concerns. They were in talks for Reiss Nelson. That was about a week and a half ago that first emerged, but that doesn't seem to be progressing at all. On the forward line, I'm going to go out there and say I actually think Arsenal will add a forward, especially because we lost Smith Rowe, especially because we're actually entertaining these negotiations for Eddie and Nelson. It makes me think that actually, whether we rate these players highly or not, Arteta clearly did. He offered them new contracts, and especially Eddie, like, played him in big games like the North London Derby and the game against Man City at the Emirates last season. If he's playing them in those games, then whatever we think, Arteta clearly does rate them to a point. I think Alex made that point on Twitter. Therefore, Alex, different knock, you all know. Therefore, Arteta will want that replaced. Like, he just will. He wanted to get Mudryk for £80 million not that long ago, like, a year and a half ago. So he's wanted to add something in terms of superstar quality to that front line for a little while. And every time we've been linked with players. So I'll be tremendously disappointed if we don't add something. I think they will. Whether it's a winger or a striker, an out-and-out 9, or a winger who's going to add something to our front three, again, I don't really mind. I think I prefer, and I change my mind on this all the time, so don't be surprised if I say something different in previous videos or streams, but I think I prefer adding a 9. I think I prefer adding a 9 because Havertz, I'm not entirely convinced by as a 9 yet. So say you had Osimhen and Havertz battling it out, Jesus and Saka on the right, Marseille Trossard on the left. I still think we lack a little bit of pace out wide. But you know what? What we were talking about with the tactics shifting slightly, I could see Trossard, I could see Jesus like doing well, a little bit more tucked in, and then your fullbacks getting up the pitch. And maybe that's how you get your width. And actually, you've got a system that is there to feed a striker. And actually, that striker isn't dropping in as much. The forwards or the wide forwards are dropping in more. And Osimhen is stretching the pitch, running the channels. Your carers could do the same. And yes, this sounds desperate. I mean, at the point where I'd get an Ivan Toney if in the last 5 days of the window, we're not getting the players we want, business a little bit slow. I'd add an Ivan Toney for 30 to 40 million pounds, just because maybe even for that price, you've added someone who gives you something different against low blocks, and maybe is a little bit more clinical than the strikers we've got at the moment. So that's where I am. What's next? I think we try to get this Merino deal done, maybe another sale or two, and then we could have a big last 2-3 weeks in pursuit of a forward. And like I said, I'll be really disappointed if we don't get it done. But let's wait and see. Right, I've been going on for ages. Let's spend the last 4 minutes just wrapping up with your comments. Between Osimhen and Gyökeres, who do you believe would be the better fit for Arsenal? Profile-wise, I actually think it's Gyökeres, but I'm no expert on either. Osimhen, though, I mean, what he's done the last few years, you've got to give him credit. I think he's almost being a little bit too disrespected. James, do you think this could be Tommy's last season, potentially injured all the time? We've got Calafiori Timber. Maybe, but let's see. I think Arteta really rates him, and I think he's got a fantastic personality and attitude, as well as some real quality to his game. So I think I don't know if this is last season. Let's go back a little bit, everyone, because I know I've missed a lot of comments. Let's try and go back. We've got a super chat here. KD. Hey, welcome to the channel, KD. I'm not sure I've seen you on the Goonerverse, but welcome here. He says, James getting it right. Do you think Osimhen will make a difference? I feel he can improve our levels. We need at least one attacking signing. Completely agree. And yes, he would add levels. We certainly need him. Nazir says, I personally feel Jesus will have another flop season. Well, he's had one season where he wasn't at his best, but it was riddled with injuries. And the first season, he was great. So, people forget, like, everyone's like, oh, he's not been his best since his injury. He came back and scored at Anfield, helped put us 2-0 up in the title race. I know he missed a lot of chances against Southampton, and that was frustrating, but like, he's still a very good player, Jesus. I'm interested to see how he does. What else have we got? Yeah, this is kind of where I am, Chrome. As long as the Nketiah deal doesn't prevent us getting another forward, I'm not too bothered. But I think in an ideal world, we get that deal dane with Reece Nelson, we add a forward, and everyone's happy. And I think he needs to move to Nketiah. That's kind of where I feel he is. Jorge says, the secret German player apparently never materialized into anything. I will say apparently that was Leroy Sané, some have been saying, I think. So, yeah. Could still go in for him. Learn says, I think we might not buy any more players after Merino, and we're going to be back to ground zero by the end of the season, saying we just needed one more player. I really hope that's not the case. It's very possible, though. It's very possible. I'm not going to lie. He said the Merino deal's imminent, SD. I'm not sure it is imminent. But yeah, let's see. I think maybe a week or two out. You're right. I did say this, but that was early, people. That was early. Like, even with the Sesko thing, things had built up, and when you get all the information, you then have an opinion on it. I did early on. I felt he was just going to end up at Juve, and this was another Vlahovic-Locatelli situation. But once it started to build up, I started to think it was doable. But then didn't we all? So it's not exactly the cleverest of predictions. James, are we keeping Kivior? I think probably yes. I think if a good bid comes in of like 25 million, I think we might do it. But I think Arteta wants a pretty beefed out defense and squad. But like, even if he goes, right, this is how stacked we are. Even if Kivior goes, you've got Timber and White battling it out, Tomiyasu Saliba, Gabriel Calafiori, and then Zinchenko, Lewis Skelly. So you could easily, okay, Calafiori might play left back, but if you ever need him to play centre back, you've got two really good options for the inverted left back role, if that's the way we want to go. So we're really well placed in that position, and Declan Rice can play centre back. You can start a game if we have an injury crisis at centre back. You can start with Rice at centre back with Gabriel, let's say, with Ødegaard, Jorginho, Merino, or Ødegaard, Partey, Merino, and I would be expecting that team to be winning games. Who knows? Maybe Rice would step into midfield, do the John Stones thing. So let's see. Would you like a Kivy or Chiesa swap deal? Yeah, I'd do that deal. I'd do that deal because I think Chiesa is still a top player. Don't know why it hasn't worked at Juventus, but that's typical of a lot of these moves. All right, everyone, we're going to round out there. The longest stream we've done, an hour. I've really enjoyed it, everyone. Hope you have too. That was the latest on as me reviewing the tour, the latest transfer stuff, and looking ahead to what's next. Hope you enjoyed it, everyone. Tomorrow there will be a video coming out. Not 100% sure on what yet. I'll be doing my research, but there will be a video tomorrow. We will then do a podcast on Tuesday, a match report on Wednesday, maybe a little something extra on Wednesday as well. I'll chat to Max, see if it's possible. Match report on Sunday as well after the game. Video on Friday, lots to come, shorts updates. The Goonerverse is well and truly back in action. This is just my opportunity to try and keep you up to date with everything that has been going on over the last really 5 days that I've sort of missed out on. Those are my thoughts. And like I said, I'll keep you up to date with everything as it happens on this channel via shorts, live shows, podcasts, videos, the lot. Hope you've enjoyed it, everyone. It's great to be back. And thank you so much. If you did enjoy, hit the like button. It does help the algorithm. And it does just sort of show support for the channel, and subscribing if you want to be kept up to date with everything else that's going on. Big thanks. See you soon.